Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Karen Gets Arrested Because I Wasn't Being a Good Cashier. So I used to work as a cashier in a supermarket. This story took place on my 4th day at work there, and my 2nd day working at a cash on my own without a supervisor sitting next to me, teaching me the ropes. Yes, I had 2 days of training. I'm sure most of you will figure out in which country I live for the following explanation. It'll become relevant later. Supermarkets in my country are a zoo on a regular day. However, Thursdays and Fridays are absolute mayhem at the store and are a special kind of hell. Fridays, the store closes 2 hours before sundown, as do most stores in the country. During winter, this means around 2 o'clock, and in summer, closer to 4:30. People get crazy on Fridays trying to get all their shopping done and get home in time to cook dinner. If you can avoid coming to the store on Friday, please do so at all costs. I always told people after this day. The reason Thursdays are hell is because we get all the customers who don't want to come on Friday. Now, this was early evening on a Thursday, at a time when the store is absolutely jam-packed. We had 10 checkout lines open, and every line had at least 6 to 7 people in line. Basically, if you're stuck with a slow cashier, there is nowhere else to go unless you have 10 items or less. Everything is going well until I get a customer with 2 shopping carts full of items, mostly non-perishable items. And these are the large carts you find around big stores in the US, like Walmart. I found out later he buys this for a community center in his neighborhood, and he fills up their party twice a year. Nice guy. He greeted me very politely and then said the most dreaded words I could have heard that night. This will be a delivery. Just a quick break from the story to explain why this was so dreaded, especially on a day like today. When we get a delivery, the cashier would call a helper from the store to help bag the groceries. Usually people do their own bagging. The bags would then be placed in plastic containers, and containers would then be placed on top of each other and taken to the back fridge until delivery. A regular delivery is usually between 3 to 5 crates. Each crate has a number, which then I have to input all of them into the computer along with correct delivery address and phone number, and print out with the receipt and place copies in the crates. Even for a small delivery, this always takes extra time. Back to the story. This guy has 2 full carts and wants a delivery. I say, sure, no problem. Then I turn to everyone else in line and let them know that this is a delivery and it will take just a bit longer than usual, and apologize for any delay this may cause. We always do this so customers will be aware of the delay and can move to another cache if they are in a hurry. This is when the whole line groans simultaneously. I don't blame them, there was nowhere else to go. I could see every one of them craning their necks to check out other lines, and they all decided to stay, so I started scanning as fast as I can. I'm pretty good with numbers, so even though it's my 4th day, I remember many of the codes and things are moving rather quickly. I get to a point where the bagger can't keep up with all the items, and the area to the left of me, where I place all the scanned items, is just a mountain of cans and bags of chips and whatnot. I can't even scan another item because they're falling back onto my scale. At this point I stop and ask if he wants help bagging. The customer and the bagger are both appreciative, and I help bag groceries for a few minutes, just enough to clear some space so I can continue scanning items. This happens every few minutes. It gets full, I stop to help, clear some space, and keep going. This is where the Karen comes into play. She's maybe early 40s, long brown hair, and looks nothing like a Karen. Except for the way she was standing, with one hand on a hip that extended so far to the side I wasn't sure how she's still standing. She's in my line, about 5 to 6 people in front of her still. This is the conversation that follows. Karen: hello, what are you doing? Me, not answering, because I didn't think she was talking to me. I keep scanning. Karen: excuse me? What kind of a cashier are you? Why aren't you doing your job? Stop being lazy and do your job, she screams at the top of her lungs. Me: I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm just trying to... Karen: that's not your job, you are a cashier. Do your job. Do your job. I realize now, after reading so many Reddit stories, that this would have been a perfect chance for some malicious compliance. I'm sure some of you hoped that I did just what Karen wanted. Too bad I didn't know about it then, or that it was only my 4th day on the job. That's not what happened, although I dream sometimes that I did just that. Sit back and sip my coffee until the space clears for more scanned items. You know, be a cashier next time. Me: I'm just helping to move things along faster. If this is a problem, or if you're in a hurry, feel free to move to another line. I'm sure another cashier will be more than happy to serve you. I may sound like I'm the a-hole with this line, but I said it really nicely, not sarcastic at all. Obviously that didn't help, lol. Karen, not listening anyway and having none of it: just do your damn job! You are a cashier. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? You should be fired. I stop listening at this point and don't answer as I'm still helping to bag and scan as fast as possible, knowing it's not gonna help anyway. However, I see one of my managers, let's call him Joe, walk up to Karen. Joe is great, by the way, always helping the workers. Joe, what seems to be the problem? Karen, still yelling. Your cashier is awful. She's lazy and she is not doing her job. You should fire her. Tell her to do her job. She's not doing her job. She repeated that a few times like a broken record. Joe looks over at me for a second, understands exactly what is happening, turns to Karen and says, can't you see she's trying to help? She's trying to make this go so much faster. Now, Karen starts screaming words, I'm assuming, but I couldn't really make them out. She was practically foaming at the mouth. Joe tries to calm her down by explaining, or trying to, how me bagging items is actually helping, and this makes Karen even more irate, if you can believe it. Spit flying from her mouth, arms flailing, screaming like a banshee. Suddenly, I notice an older woman, nice old lady, must have been around 80 years old, trying to get Karen's attention by tapping her on the shoulder. It takes a few tries, but she finally gets her attention and spins her around by her shoulder. NOL. Hey, Karen? Karen? Excuse me? Karen! Karen, what? NOL. Your daughter is crying. This is when the entire store seemed to have stopped talking all at once, like someone pressed mute and turned off the volume. The sea of people in front of me parts a bit, and we all look down and see a little girl who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching her mother's thighs, bawling her eyes out, snot coming out of everywhere, hyperventilating. This girl was terrified, and I can't blame her. Seeing her mother going off like that must have been terrifying, and she has no idea what's happening. She's in a huge store where she knows no one, and she's practically invisible. This silence lasted an entire 2 seconds because that's when Karen started yelling at Joe. Karen, look what you did! You and your stupid lazy cashier made my daughter cry! And a bunch of other crazy sounds that were perhaps supposed to be words. Things happened in slow motion for the next few seconds. She starts to swing towards Joe. Joe's not a big guy, but he's bigger than Karen, that's for sure, and he's not easily intimidated. Not his first Karen. She would have decked him right in the face if the NOL hadn't grabbed her in a bear hug to stop her. Yes, she did. I had to pick up my jaw off the floor. At that point, other customers got involved trying to peel off the NOL from Karen and stop Karen from trying to kill Joe, and from Joe trying to kill Karen because he was fuming by then. At this point, I saw mall security storm the castle. Our store was inside a mall, and the sea of people just surrounded Karen, and I couldn't really see much of anything anymore. Kind of like football players when there's a fumble and they all jump on the ball. By the sound of yelling getting farther and farther away, I figured Karen was being led either to the back office or to the mall security office, mall jail. This entire time this is happening, I'm still bagging and scanning items, and I'm about halfway through this customer's purchase. I finish up with him with no more problems. He was very nice and thanked me profusely for helping with the bags, even though technically it wasn't part of my job. He said I was the fastest and nicest cashier he had ever had the pleasure of meeting. I was just happy to help. No one else in my line complained. I actually got compliments from people about keeping my composure. Apparently many cashiers in my country think it's okay to yell at customers and just be plain nasty. I worked in customer service for many years prior, and I've never yelled at a customer, even if they deserved it. Once the rush died down a bit, I went for a break. I met another employee in the back room, and I started to tell him of what just happened when he cut me off. She was yelling at you? Ha ha ha! I heard that. Well, everyone heard that, but I had no idea what the fuck was happening. He told me that police was called and Karen escorted out of the store and the mall in handcuffs. I filled him in on everything and we spent the next 30 minutes laughing. I don't know what happened with the child. I'm assuming they called another family member to pick her up. I also don't know what happened with Karen after that, since I ended up working there for another year and I never saw her again. Hopefully she learned to do her grocery shopping on Tuesday/Wednesday, or was possibly in prison or house arrest. This was the first Karen I had the displeasure of meeting while working at that store, but definitely not the last. To those of you who read the entire story, thank you for sticking with me through to the end. I hope it was worth it, and you got some sense of pleasure or justice from the end result. I'll work on my writing skills so the next story I may write, that may be long as well, will be easy and entertaining to read. The last story is titled, When I Was Away, My Neighbor Discarded My Classic Car Valued at $525,000. I've always lived in the same neighborhood and have seen all kinds of neighbors come and go. I've even had to deal with some Karen types in the past, so when Amy moved in next door, I was wary. However, she was always pleasant to me, and I thought I'd hit the neighbor jackpot. Amy would always say hello and even bring over baked goods once in a while. However, she had a reputation for being mean to everyone else in the neighborhood. One day I found myself in a bit of a predicament. My job required me to travel out of town regularly, and I had 3 cats and a dog that I needed to take care of. Putting them up in boarding each time was going to be expensive, and I didn't want them to be stuck in cages all day. That's when Amy offered to pet sit for me. I hesitated at first, but after seeing how great she was with her own dog, I decided to give her a chance. At first, everything was going smoothly. Amy seemed to genuinely love animals, and my pets seemed to enjoy her company. I paid her well for the job, and it was still cheaper than sending them to a boarding facility. Plus, it was a win-win situation. My pets were happy, and Amy got to make some extra cash. However, things took a turn for the worse when I came back from a trip and found my vintage 1967 Shelby GT500 missing from the garage. I couldn't believe it. I had spent years working on that car, and it was worth over $500,000. My heart sank as I realized what had happened. I had given Amy the key to my garage, and she must have used it to sell my car and parts to make some quick cash. I was furious and immediately confronted Amy, demanding an explanation for her actions. She was defensive at first, but then she admitted to selling my car and parts. She claimed that she deserved the money for pet sitting and other things she had done for me. I was livid, and my anger escalated when she refused to return the car and the parts to me. I knew I had to take legal action, but I was also concerned that I might not be able to recover my car. However, with the help of the police and the court, we were able to track down the car and get it back. The parts, however, were long gone. During the court proceedings, I found out that Amy had a history of financial problems and had even declared bankruptcy in the past. It all started to make sense why she had been so desperate for money. I couldn't believe that I had trusted her with my pets and garage key, and that she had taken advantage of me in such a terrible way. After the case was over, I thought that was the end of it. However, a few weeks later, I received a call from the police. They had found out that Amy had been involved in a car theft ring and had used my car as a way to gain the trust of other car owners in the area. She had even attempted to sell my car to a buyer who had been suspicious and had tipped off the police. Not only had Amy stolen my car and parts, but she had also been using it to commit other crimes. It was a nightmare scenario that I never could have imagined. I felt violated, and it took me a long time to feel safe in my own home again. In the end, I was glad that justice was served and Amy was sentenced to a long prison term for her crimes. However, the experience left me with a sense of paranoia and a distrust of people that I never had before. I realized that sometimes even the people who seem the nicest on the surface can turn out to be the worst. After that experience, I made sure to install cameras all around my property, and I became extra careful about who I let into my home. I also started volunteering with local organizations that help victims of financial scams and other crimes so that I could help others who had been through similar experiences. However, just when I thought I had put the whole ordeal behind me, I received another shocking call from the police. They informed me that they had found evidence that Amy had been planning to break into my home and rob me while I was away on my next trip. The thought of what could have happened if the police hadn't caught her in time makes me sick to my stomach. I couldn't believe that I had been so naive to trust her in the first place. The experience changed me in ways that I never could have imagined. It made me more vigilant, more cautious, and more aware of the dangers that can lurk in even the most unexpected places. However, it also gave me a new sense of purpose and a drive to help others who have been through similar experiences. In the end, I was able to recover my car and get justice for the crimes that were committed against me. However, the emotional toll of the experience will stay with me for a long time to come. I learned the hard way that you can never be too careful, and that sometimes the people you least expect can be the most dangerous. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.